what isn't very good, Salim, is the fact that Aston Villa drew 1-1 to Nottingham Forest earlier this week, and you've got the tough task of dealing with Chelsea at Villa Park this weekend as well. And there's big talks of Steven Gerrard once again, like we have said at the start of the season, not living up to expectations without Michael Beale next to him as well. There's talks of your owners, I think, coming into the country. Was it Nassef Sawirisi and
So Nassef Sawiris and Wes Edens, yeah.
yeah, there's talk of them coming into the country to be watching the game on Sunday as well. So that could be like a last nail in the coffin. But obviously, Salim, I want to know your thoughts on Aston Villa so far, on your thoughts on Steven Gerrard, and realistically speaking, is the writing on the wall to see Steven Gerrard kind of getting sacked from the Aston Villa job?
So yeah, so from what you said, I've got quite a lot of points actually to go back. I've got a few good stats as well. Um, the Leeds game away, that's a game that I went to this season and last season as well. And you know, it was a world apart. Last season we went there, we outplayed them and we won 3-0. And this year we when it was boring, we were playing against 10 men for a full half and we were just so uninspiring and slow. But personally, I really did want it to work out for Gerrard, and it's a bit sad that it hasn't in that sense because he came with that reputation and with a really top class coaching staff, and he had achieved good stuff up at Rangers, but his days do look numbered. I'm surprised the board haven't pulled the trigger already, but it probably means that they're just preparing the next appointment in this time, which I hope they are doing. In terms of Michael Beale, that's somebody that we did mention with a couple of Rangers fans from their podcast too, and how they were more devastated about losing him. The thing with him is now he's in the Championship, with QPR. He hasn't spent a penny. He's just been relying on free transfers and loans, and they've just gone joint top. And that was a QPR team that haven't really been performing that well in the Championship.
Wow. I'd never
Yeah.
experienced that as well as like just not experienced it. I never knew about that and how Michael Beale can just do that straight away from being a head coach, which is
And
crazy to see.
he's got him playing like good football, and the thing is, when Gerrard first came through the door, we were playing this good football, this one touch playing out from the back triangles, and it was encouraging times, and you can see Michael Beale sort of implemented this in such a short time at QPR, and you could see that this is sort of not this being drained away from us. Another thing to point out there as well is Tim Irobianum. That's there. He's a young lad from Villa, defensive mid, and he's been top quality there. I think he was man of the match, not in the last game, the game before. So that's been quite good for his development there too. In terms of playing Chelsea this weekend, it's actually quite interesting because just before lockdown happened, I remember we were meant to play against Chelsea. This was when Dean Smith was in charge, and we were sort of poor form and looking to go down. And I actually had tickets for this game, and I remember like it being a Saturday game or something. And I had obviously I had a season ticket anyway, so I was looking forward to going. But one of my mates had a ticket for that game too, and I think by Thursday or something, the game had been called off. But the thing is that if that game actually went forward and Villa played and lost to Chelsea, Dean Smith would probably have lost his job. So it's funny how these things come around because with Project Restart, Dean Smith was given, sort of a lot more leniency and leeway, and he was able to get, regroup and obviously keep us up. It was a miracle that season, but this game could be the one that cost Gerrard his job. For me, it should have come a couple of weeks back. We're just sort of delaying the inevitable. I still have full faith in the board and personnel that they will do the right thing. And I don't know, people are saying this, who can you target? But there are some names out there. Pochettino has been mentioned a lot. Just recently, there's been talk of Unai Emery as well, which I'm not too sure about. But yeah, to be honest, it's just anything. We just need a change, and we just need to refresh. With the squad we've got, we shouldn't be where we are. We should be, trying to get top six and trying to go for top four, as in line with the ambition of the owners.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, you've gone through it so well, and you've talked about it in so many podcasts over the year, literally over the 2022, that how Gerrard has literally just failed in what he's tried to deliver at Aston Villa, and especially as you were one of the players who want one of the fans who wanted Dean Smith to stay as a manager at the
Yeah.
time, and Gerrard wasn't the right one. It's kind of gone to show that everything you were saying has come into fruition if it didn't happen for Gerrard, and it hasn't happened. With his 71% win ratio at Rangers compared to his 34% win ratio at Aston Villa, And I think that's lower than Tim Sherwood's when he was your manager way back when as well. So it goes to show that you can't rely on a big name these days in terms of as a former player going into management, because that was a step too soon. And I think we did mention it when we were speaking to Scott from Rangers, that it could be a step too soon, and they thought that he was leaving because he thought he was too big for his boots. And when you're kind of looking at Rangers, they got another manager who's taken them into the Champions League, so they're better off without him. And Aston Villa were worse off with him. So it goes to show that Steven Gerrard clearly isn't the top manager he thought he could have been at this moment in time, because he's had the money that has been able to spend. I think it's north of 270 million you've spent over the last 3 or 4 seasons as well. I'm not sure how much of that Gerrard has done.
Yeah, it's been quite a bit, and he has been backed. That's the thing. But another thing to point out is it's how I've mentioned about Ten Hag as well, and managers like Potter and Arteta. When it comes to trust the process, like even as a Villa fan, like last season we did lose some games and we did play really well. Like Man City at home, we lost 2-1, but we were unbelievable that day, playing out from the back with triangles and sort of trying to play total football kind of thing. But if the signs there that there is some sort of style being implemented and we do get a couple of results, but there are some games that we lose, then there is some sort of positivity and some belief in that trust the process. And you just know it'll take time and players, and then it will click, because it's not hard. It's not easy to get a team playing from 0 to 100 in that sense. But for us, it just looks like we've regressed. Like the players, though, none of them look like they've improved at all. That's the one thing that Dean Smith did really well, was that he was a really good man manager and he coached all his players, and all his players improved under him. But for us, it just looks like everyone's sort of gone back into their shell. Players like not looking confident at all, like a shadow of their former selves. You've got players like Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins, Danny Ings especially, like clinical striker. Ollie Watkins is still like
especially as well, looks like a shell of himself. He had a really good start to the season when he came in January, in the January transfer window, and he just hasn't done anything. And Aston Villa haven't won a game on a Sunday for the last 10 games they've had, and you've got Chelsea coming up, which we'll talk about later as well. But
I know, and then you've got John McGinn as well. Sorry, I know I've gone on a bit, but
no, that's okay.
And then the whole situation we've had with captaincy, stripping Tyrone Mings, which was a complete wrong decision.
Talk to me about that as well. Talk to me about how you drew against Nottingham Forest and he was the only one going over to the fans and no one else kind of went, because that looked a bit kind of sloppy with the kind of performance you put in as well. I was watching the game, I was thinking you definitely might be happy with this, so I need to get your thoughts on that.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. Like Dean Smith mentioned it in an interview just, I think yesterday. I can't remember who he was with on radio, but he mentioned that at Villa it was about having the connection with the fans, and the fans can help the manager. And that's one thing. Dean Smith always went over to the to the fans, the away support, and made the players go and applaud. And that's something that Gerrard, I don't know why he doesn't do it. Maybe it's an ego problem. No matter how much of a sore loser you are, like myself, I'd admit to being a sore loser as well. But in that situation, I'd 100% go over to the fans. If it was me, player or manager. So I'm not sure what the situation is with that. But I know Tyrone Mings has been coming over and he has been trying to communicate with the fans, and a lot of people are still saying he's still my captain.